Well, all right. It's Dave from cheapwinefinder.com. And we have another companion podcast to a written review we did on the cheapwinefinder.com website. And we've been doing cheapwinefinder.com for going on 12 years. We have a couple thousand reviews on there. We, just to explain, because I don't know if I've done it before, we don't grade wine. We're not wine critics. We're wine fans. You know, we go out and try to find wines that we know we're going to like that we can talk about. You know, we try to get out of our comfort zone now and again, but we're not just trying random wines and figuring out what they are. We choose wines that we're fairly certain we're going to at least like, if not love. And, you know, and after, you know, we're doing this that long, we're right most of the time. Every so often I get a boring wine, but I very seldom get a bad one. And what we have today is an ALDI's wine, which is always interesting because ALDI's in Europe and in Australia are the bang for the buck wine company, wine store. I mean, they have wines that sell out in 24 hours. They win awards. They're happening. You know, an ALDI's wine is a good wine. People know them and they know the best ones, and the producers want to sell it to them. In the United States, they don't have that image. Trader Joe's kind of beats them, which is an ALDI's, ALDI's Nord is Trader Joe's, Nordy's Sud, which is South, is ALDI. You know, they're two different companies, but they're related, and Trader Joe's kind of has the wine mystique. But ALDI has some really good wines, and what this is the Wind Song Margaret River 2018 Chardonnay from Western Australia. And like I said, in Australia, ALDI's is big in Australia, and their wines are big, and they win awards. And I think, was it last year? I think one of ALDI's wines in a big event won the wine of the year. If I'm not mistaken, it was last year or the year before. I mean, they're players. And Margaret River is on western side, southwestern corner of Australia, near Perth. And if you've been drinking value-priced Australian wines, you've been drinking southeast. You know, if it's a Shiraz or, they actually, I like their southeastern Chardonnay, and there's other, there's Merlots and other things there. But those are all in the more warm weather areas. The ocean keeps the coastal areas cool enough at night and during the morning, so it doesn't, because Australia can get warm. But on the western side, it's cool all the time. And it's also really, really dry. So it's cool and dry, which are kind of like what grapes like, at least certain grapes and the grapes that grow there. And Margaret River is getting to be well known in the high-end pricey wine circles as with Cabernet Sauvignon, Bordeaux-style Sauvignon Blanc mixed with Semillion, and Chardonnay. And these are all kind of boutique-y, small production wineries out on the western coast. I read in a couple of different locations that the Western Australia AVA, or it's not AVA, but that district makes 2 or 3% of the total production of Australian wines. And I saw a couple of different numbers, but it makes between 20 and 25% of all their high-end wines. So this is an area, I mean, if they're only making 2 or 3, you got to figure like about 80% of the high-end wines come from Margaret River, which makes this $7.99 ALDI's store brand Chardonnay a little bit different. It's kind of like, whenever so often you go to Trader Joe's or Costco and you see a Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon for $12.99 or something, that's like, oh, that's cheap. It's not the usual wines you find, because most people in Napa can sell theirs for $20 plus, so you don't get them that cheap. And this is a Chardonnay that the people out in Western Australia selling them for $35-$40. You might find one here and there for $18, but and this is in a drink it now style, I would imagine. There is no notes on who made it and how they made it and why they made it, or any of those made it things that you get from wineries. but it's pretty good little, I always say little, it's a really good Chardonnay. I mean, it's just because it's $7.99 doesn't mean it's actually really solid. It's got a lot of flavor. It's got a great nose. Acidity is really well balanced on it. It's a little bit more fruit forward. I was expecting maybe like a Burgundian style Chardonnay, and it wasn't. It had a little more oomph to it than they tend to have, but it was actually really tasty and had a great nose and had a nice finish. I mean, it was a nice wine. I'm going to take a sip because I just made myself thirsty. So this is kind of fun. I mean, this is a wine that doesn't exist. If someone like Aldi or some store brand, I mean, the main players in that, or usually it's a negotiant. There are some negotiant brands out there that bring wines in, but even they, if this is 25% of what they normally get for their wines out of Chardonnays out of Western Australia. So it's usually a store brand that's trying to keep in this price range to come up with these wines. And like I said, Australia is a big player for Aldi. They do a lot of wines there. So if you see wines there, actually, if you see like Italian, even German wines in Aldi's, because they're a German company, Spanish wines, they get really, I mean, big companies want to work with Aldi. So if you see a Rioja or some kind of Italian fancy wine, I think there's an Amarone that it was theirs, like $12 for one of those. I mean, they're probably really, really good. So Aldi's is a place to search out and find not a huge selection, but there's some gems in there. And like, this is a really good wine. It's got great acidity. It tastes great. It's good. It's $8. It's a wine you're not going to find. Don't like it too much because, it's going to sell out. They only have so much of this. And if you want a Margaret River Chardonnay, you're going to have to spend $30 on the next one. So only like it a little bit. And I'm going to take another sip because we're getting to the point where got to start drinking it. Yeah, when Drink It Now wines, you got to drink them now. Yep. So Margaret River is the high-end wines of Australia. Aldi is really kind of a player when it comes to crazy wines from other places that they don't do a particularly good job of promoting. So like they have like higher end wines than you'd expect. I know Trader Joe's sometimes has like from Spain or Italy, the everyday wine that the people there actually drink themselves. You can get at Trader Joe's. Here, Aldi seems to have like the higher end at a cheaper price. And like I said, Aldi's displays never look that good. Could be wine, it could be saltines. It doesn't, it's not that appetizing. But if you look at the wines there, and heck, Aldi's champagne last December was one of the best wines I had in 2019. So don't sleep on Aldi. This is a good Chardonnay. If you like it, go back and buy more because when it's gone for good. And like I said, don't get a taste for it because it's going to be 3 to 4 times the price the next time you look for it. Even though this is a Drink It Now wine, I doubt if it's a $40 wine that they're selling for $8.99. Doesn't usually work that way. This is probably a wine made by somebody in a less detailed and comprehensive style, a Drink It Now style. I mean, they did everything you need to do for a younger Drink It Now wine, because the ones they sell for $35 are usually more complex. But that's not a bad thing because if it's made well with that style, it's going to be good. And it is good, and I like it. And that's it for me. Until the next time, I'm not sure where we're going, but we're going. We'll come up with all sorts of stuff. And keep it cheap. Look at Aldi's and look around. Stay away from the winking owl. I'm not that crazy about that stuff, but good wine is out there if you can find it. And I'll talk to everybody later. Bye-bye.